Hello YouTube. So just gonna put up a video to show you what I've been working on in terms of my short game. A little bit of the updates of how I've been progressing through things I've tried, and my actual main goal. So I've tried numerous different techniques over the years, and especially even in the last 12 months. I'm trying to see what works for me. Looking at Steve Stricker, Sevi, Jordan Spieth, and Tiger, and although his physical structure is quite different to mine, he's quite considerably taller than I am. Having practiced them all, his technique is the best fit for me in terms of how I like to play. I did try Jordan Spieth as well, where it's very similar, but you have a different grip and a different release, kind of more of a drive hold with the arms further away from the body. But actually, when trying Tigers, which I'll just discuss in a minute, but comparing that to Tigers, it feels better for me and it feels more natural. So I think this is the way I'm gonna go. So I'll just quickly talk you through what Tiger does. So the most notable thing about Tiger, if you look at this video here, is his grip, and how wide open he has the club face. So he tends to have two different styles, and I'll quickly just show you them. So there's the wide open club face with a really strong left-handed grip. If you look at his left hand, it's really strong. However, his right isn't as strong. So his right is a bit more dominant. He's always said he plays with his right hand. So it's quite a unique grip. Normally when you have a strong left, you would also have a strong right. So this, I've tried this in the past, and I like the spin that it generates. So that is something I've tried to. He's basically got two swings, and one of them, I haven't videoed it on this section, but this is one of them. So really strong left hand, wide open club face, but a more dominant right hand, and that is a lot more neutral. So he's got the two swings. So he does a push cut, and these are all by 40 to 60 yards, by the way. This is the kind of the region that I've been practicing on, and it is in focus for this video. So the push cut, he still has an open club face, but nowhere near to the extent that he does when he flares it open. So the push cut is more of a more neutral in terms of the club face, and he lines up. The feet are slightly more to the left than his shoulders, but there's not a massive discrepancy in terms of, his feet aren't much wider than his shoulders. They tend to be. It's not much difference. If anything, his feet are more open to target. But with the push cut that he does, he's noticeably aimed left of the target, and he'll just use the same swing as he does with the wide open club face, but he comes in inside to out and just pushes it out. So this is the swing that I'm talking about. So what we're looking for, well, not looking for, but in terms of the length of the swing, is when his left arm is just past parallel. This tends to produce the 40 to 60 yard shot that I'm focusing on. So just past parallel, and if you notice his hands here, they will flatten, and he comes through and hits a push cut. So that's one method that I've been working on. It's not the one I'm looking at today, but it is definitely one method that he uses. He did it in 2013. This one example I just showed you 2018. These videos are 2019. So basically, again, you'll see here, tiny video, sorry. The pin is to the right. Again, in terms of his shoulders and his feet, then not too dissimilar, but they're definitely all aligned, but to to the left of the target, goes up and shallows. Sorry, goes up, flattens, and hits a push cut. So that's one of his swings that I've been copying. And then the other is wide open club face with the grip that I mentioned. And if the things that you'll notice, it comes up, slightly flattens the plane on the way down, but it's an early release. He releases his elbows don't get near the pocket, so they're not behind him and with lots of rotation. It's very much when you flatten, but you keep ahead of the hips. Everything's quite neutral, and there's a definite release with the right hand through impact and into the finish. You see the release there, how quickly his right hand came over. So that's the technique that I've been trying to emulate. I'll just show you it one more with a different example. Right, so what I noticed from address is he's quite upright. He hasn't got much pelvic tilt. He's very, so in terms of actually how he stood, it's upright, but with a lot of thoracic spine flexion. This the rolling of his shoulders here, with his shoulders are protracted as well, so they're very low in order to get his elbows lower than the belt line, or say the top of his pocket. So it's not, when I first was trying to get my elbows lower than the same height as the top of my pocket, I was trying to do that by having just a lower head in general. But as I've progressed, I'm now trying to get more thoracic spine flexion here, but be more upright in terms of the angle of my hips, and more upright. So I still work to go there. If you look, actually, my elbows are still higher than the top of my pocket. It's not far off, but it needs to be improved. I think I can get more shoulder protraction to get my hands lower, and I just got to keep on. My whole life I've swung with my hands out in front of my chest, and then their elbows never really get that low, so it's a weird feeling to me, but it's something that I'm working on, and it's something that definitely the Tiger does. So he remains through impact as well, and all the pros, they all have their elbows lower than the top of their pocket at impact, and the majority of them have it near that level at address as well. So that's what I'm trying. So more upright, hands closer to the body, arched over the top, shoulder protraction rather than retraction. Nice low hands. So comes up very neutral in terms of his hands. The club face quite upright rather than rolled over, and then there's a shift here with his hands. If you see there, flattens off. He flattens off the plane, so it goes from being quite relatively steep to more shallow, comes down, but he has low elbows, but they're in front of the pocket, so they come in this region here. When the club is parallel to the ground, it's difficult to see on this because it's such a low camera angle, but the club is if anything is neutral to slightly inside to out in terms of it being behind the hands. It doesn't, the club, only when he's hitting a very high cut like a flop will the club be over the top and round about here. So the way I've tried to kind of feel that is with the position on my left thumb. If it's more on the deviation, so your thumb pointing down, you're going to come more inside to out, and if you hold it up as if you're casting a fishing rod, that's called radial deviation. If I hold that, then I will come over the top side and hit more of a cut. So he's leading with his right more. He said on his other videos that he feels most things with his right, but it's definitely neutral to inside to out in terms of how he comes down in behind the hands. And then here's the release I'm talking about. His hands are faster than his hips. He's still got, look at that protraction of his shoulders. He's really, really low elbows in correlation to his hip pocket. But if you look actually at his hips, there's not much pelvic tilt there at all, and his lower back is very upright. So it's just literally everything is in his shoulders in order to get that low, and that's something that I haven't been doing. If you look at me here, I'm doing it by leaning over, and I've got lots of pelvic tilt, and the whole spine is over. So I'll quickly just finish on tiger, and then I go through to how it's panned out for me. So like I said, that low hand, neutral, everything is working together. Is not really trying to. There's no extra rotation in the hips at all. It's all coming down in one, and then he has this classic finish here, kind of, you call it kind of an umbrella finish. That he there's very few shots that he finishes where he's not in this position. So that's something I'm going to add in next, is just to make sure I finish like that. But what's interesting is that, so whereas with his push cut, he was definitely aiming left of target and hitting an inside to out push cut. When he has it wide open, he's much more neutral to the target. He's I would say perfectly aligned there with the target, and he can hit a draw with a wide open club face, and he'll also hit cuts from this position. So if you look at the videos that I've got today, they don't have the wide open club face, but they are neutral to the target, well, the majority of them. So basically this is where I was in June. As I said, I was trying to get these low elbows, and I was thinking that you would do it by having a lower head, and it turns out that that's not the way. I didn't really look hard enough. So this was me trying to just ingrain the upright, steep backswing, and then switching here, shallowing off, and coming in flatter. And there you can see what the net result of that is: a club that is, when you're parallel to the ground, is behind the hand, so inside to out, and that produces, inside out to out, kind of tiny bit off the heel there, but a push cut. So that was what I was working on first. This mainly the hand path, but you'll notice the club face there. That's a neutral club face rather than being wide open with the left hand. So I will add a video of doing it the way that Tiger actually does it. But when he has his push cut, he tends to have a more neutral club face anyway. So if you look at the position of my hands when they come down, they're ahead of the hips, but I've rotated more, and it's just not quite right. There is the nice thoracic spine flexion here, but it's not quite right, especially at address. And because of that, if you look at my head position, there's making quite a few adjustments in there, raising up to. It's not right. It's not horrific, but it's not what Tiger does. But it does feel nice, and I have been hitting it well doing this method. So, one other thing to note is that of all the pros that I looked at with their wedges, they all have from transition onwards, they have the head moves back and the hips, so they all kind of rock away on the downswing. And I didn't, when you're watching it on TV and whatnot, I don't think it's that pronounced that you will notice it. But literally, if I was to show you all the videos of Graham McDowell, Ernie Els, Sevi, Jordan Spieths, they all rock away from the target, especially with the short pitches. Sorry, the chipping. They all rock away. So that's something that I'm trying to incorporate. So I'll just quickly actually show you the way that I've come through. So that was where I was to begin with. Another method that I used to try and get this kind of push cut was to really choke down on the grip, and really, if you look at, so everything here, so the feet were angled more to the left and the shoulders are angled over here. So if you were to line up properly with my feet and my shoulders, the target line would be there. And we're trying to really come in inside to out and hit a push. And I've been doing that whilst practicing for a while, and actually really pleased with the results. The contact has been much better by hitting a push cut. So that was me practicing it. But again, you'll see I still haven't got this upright position that Tiger has. It's better than it was over here, but it's still not quite right at address, and it's difficult to see because this was filmed by my brother, and he's absolutely ginormous, so it's a much higher angle than I normally film at. I normally try to film all my shots from belly button height, but the elbow's still higher than the top of my pocket. Not far off, but it's still too high. So then, since then I've been trying to noticeably stand more upright. So if you can see here, this is where I've progressed to. So there is a noticeable difference. I could still get these elbows lower, and I could probably choke down the club on the handle a bit. Tiger, there's a little bit of a gap, whereas me, I've got a habit of having the left hand too high on the club and right at the top, and having being a short guy, I don't need to do that at all. So this is again me trying to, this is the feeling of trying to go inside to out. It doesn't actually, so it comes down to neutral when I'm more upright, whereas here I was definitely more inside to out when I was leaning over. So that's an adjustment I need to add to more, because if you actually look at it, it is actually outside to in, but the feeling to me is inside to out. So there's this adjustment, and if you can see, I do shallow. There is the noticeable change in how deep my hands go there. They go deeper so that I can go more inside to out. Okay, so, and that feeling there, it doesn't look it, but that's me really trying to imagine that I'm hitting a push. Okay, and then, so that is kind of that feeling. And now I'm trying to get the hands closer to my body. So the video that I released last is the feeling of going up neutral and trying to get I'm trying to flatten it off. As you can see, it's considerable. This is probably, I hit it too. This is me trying to smash it too much in comparison. This is quite a big swing, but trying to flatten here, there we are, but also keep the hands in here and not do what I've always would done and go out to the ball. So trying to keep the ball closer and more upright rather than flatten around. Again, I'm coming in this one ever so slightly, because ever so slightly over the top. It's tiny bit. It's more definitely more outside to in than this swing. So it's something to improve on. Yeah, look, you can see how across the outside to in I was there, outside to in, but I know this isn't an exact copy of Tiger. This is me kind of going off a bit of a tangent, but it's a definite improvement here in my body position at impact to my older swing. So I am seeing the benefits in my longer game to from working on this kind of tiger's short game, and my hands are close, and they're in front of the hips here, but I've rotated too much because this one I was really, for some reason I was trying to smash. I think I just enjoyed it, so that's where I was. And in terms of finish, these were quite cut off because you can't really see from the camera angle, but this is a very severe slope, so it naturally saws off your finish because you do produce quite a big divot. So that's where I'm at today, and that's what I've been working on. One more. So the difference on these is that I want a flying elbow on the way back, but I also want to, from this position on, squeeze my elbows together, because you don't want a flying elbow coming down, and so I've been trying to add that. Squeeze, keep it in tight to my body. But again, these ones were more full swings than pitches really, and that's where you can see quite a bit of rotation. But there's a definite change in the way that I'm addressing it, and the way I am at impact from where I was prior on my old swings. So I've got to thank Tiger for that. So I'm adding another update to the end of more exaggeration of this motion here. It's a really uncomfortable feeling for me. It's so unnatural from how my body wants to be. It really feels like you're sticking this right up in the air and you're wedging this in here. But if you look at this composition, if you look at this transition across, each one is actually looking more like Tiger. Obviously he's wearing a polo here, so that creates a lump there that isn't there on mine because of what I'm wearing. But if you kind of follow the angle of the angle of my head is steeper than his, but the actual rounding of the back is definitely increased here, as is the protraction of my arms, and as a result, if I just highlight the middle of my elbow there, he's probably wearing his trousers ever so slightly higher than me. I tend to wear them around my arse. So there is I would say my arms and my hands are lower, as probably is highlighted by the angle of the shaft as well. So I can get there's more rounding here rather than this. See that this again, my whole spine is going over. So I'm another step in the right direction in trying to get to where Tiger is here. However, as this is not much chance to practice it, there are some faults with it. I take it back too far to the inside, whereas Tiger, his hands are on the actual outside. I've got them lower than, and if you look at his thumb, this angle here, there's a difference there, so that would indicate that potentially my grip is not the same. And let's just quickly compare it to this one. When I took this one back, it was much more neutral, and this one's definitely going back to the inside. But that's going to have to be fine tuned. The most important thing is to get the biggest change, which is this TSF, thoracic spine flexion. Get that, get my elbows lower. So I come back, stop. Yes, I'm definitely not as steep as Tiger here on the way back. He's It's difficult to see with the angle, but I'm flatter. My club is more laid off on the way back, and then he lays it off on the downswing, whereas I'm already laid off. So we end up in a similar position here, but it's not the right. I should be slightly steeper on the way back, and then rotate into that to get to that position. But coming down, let's check it here. Coming down, club parallel. I would guess with the way that this how low this camera angle is, that's about club parallel. So very similar positions there. Right wrist looks similar. The main difference is that my hands have come out from my body a bit more. It's not a massive amount. If you look to kind of the base of my head, I would, yeah. So, and if you look at the angle of the left arm, it needs to be tighter here. So hands need to be in here, so that this left arm is actually slightly inside, as it is with Tiger, rather than coming out to meet the ball. So that could be addressed by ball position. Yeah, that mainly would be. Oh, mind you, they look similar. So yeah, the path coming down is slightly wrong for me. So coming down from here is coming out there too much. Maybe a little bit steeper there. And then I kind of caught it tiny bit to the toe. But if I zoom into, this is my elbow here, and it is lower. It's not massive amount. But if you look at it, middle of my elbow here, that's how, there's definite improvement there just from that one exaggeration at address. And I try to release the club more here, and I'm trying to really think about Tiger when doing this swing. So as you can see, I've rotated a lot less because I haven't got carried away and trying to smash it. If you compare it to that one, again, that one I rotated a lot. So this is promising. If I get it to just one frame after, it's looking better. And the actual net result was, I'm aiming at the blue ball here, so a little bit of a push. But if you look where it lands, it's it's a 2 yard offline, so that's not horrific for the first time I'm trying it. And if you look at Tiger, say that that's the target line, he's pitching it a bit to the right and drawing it in. So more improvements. Did I do a proper finish, or did I just stop? Let's have a look. Yeah, I kind of just got eager to see what happened and stopped, rather than doing the proper umbrella finish. But more steps in the right direction.